All right, let's pick up where we left off with Cyrano. Remember when we left Cyrano on page 446? Cyrano and Christian and Roxanne, remember, they were just at the point where Christian wanted to give her a kiss, right? And she said, and she was fine with it. Cyrano was saying, Christian, stop. What are you doing? You go too far. And then Roxanne was like, what? You want a kiss, but you only want one kiss, right? You don't want more than just one kiss. And so then Christian or Cyrano's like, no, and Christian was like, what? Come on, it's going to happen sooner or later. And then Cyrano was like, oh, that's true. If you guys love each other, it is going to happen sooner or later. So I might as well be the one to help it happen, right? So that's where we left off. And so Roxanne says, hey, are you still there? Right? Because Christian and Cyrano are having this conversation, like, no, yes, yes, it's going to happen anyway. Oh. And so Roxanne's like, are you still there? And Cyrano's, and she's like, we were just speaking about, and Cyrano's like, yes, a kiss. What is a kiss? And he goes on this little speech about what a kiss is. And she's like, hush. And Cyrano's like, why? What's the problem? And she's now thinking a little bit, should I? And Roxanne's like this, you're beautiful. And Cyrano's like, oh yeah, so I am. I forgot that, right? Because he's pretending to be Christian. And she's like, come up here and get your kiss. So Cyrano says to Christian, he's like, go. And now Christian is like, now he's getting nervous, like, I don't know. And she's like, come on, come up, get your kiss. And he's like, I don't know. And Cyrano's like, come on, climb up there. And Christian's like, wait, no, no, would you? Not yet. And he's like, get up there. And he so it kind of pushes him, like, climb up there. So he gets up on the bench and then he climbs up with the pillars and the branches, climbs up onto the balcony, and they kiss. And so this is going on. Cyrano's down there, and then he's just kind of like, oh, Roxanne, right? The woman he loves. And now he just helped this happen. He just helped her to be able to kiss, right, with Christian. And he's like, well, I did what I meant to do. I won her, but not for me. She fell in love with my words, but not in love with me, right? He's the one getting the kisses, even though it was through my words that all this happened. Right. And so then all of a sudden they see this capuchin, which is a priest. They see this priest coming in. And so Cyrano like retreats and goes out of sight, kind of runs off and then kind of re-enters, kind of like he's not been there and he's just now arriving from a distance. And he's like, hello. And Roxanne hears him and says, who is that? And he says, it's me. It's Cyrano. Is Christian up there with you? And she's like, Cyrano. And Cyrano's like, yes. And she's like, oh, I'm coming down. So she comes down. She sees the priest coming. So she comes down, and Christian sees the priest coming. He's like, man, not now, right? He was having this great moment with Roxanne, and it's just getting interrupted. And so the priest says, does Madeline Robin live here? Which is Roxanne's name. And Roxanne was like, what is it? What do you want? And the priest's like, well, I have a letter for her. And Christian's like, oh. So the priest gives a letter to Roxanne and says, it's from De Guiche. He tells Christian. And Christian's like, he dares to write to you? And she's like, well, he won't for long when he learns, that I love you and what's going on. So then to herself, she opens this letter to read it, what De Guiche says. And remember what he had said. Remember, be ready for me tonight. I'm going to come back for you so we can get married, right? So she opens this letter to see what it says. And he says, I'll be with you soon. Make sure that you're alone tonight, waiting for me. Like that's what this letter says. So he's coming that night to try to marry her, right? And so then what she does says, Father, or talking to the priest, this letter concerns you and you, Christian. And then she opens a letter and she pretends to be reading, but she's going to fake it. She's going to pretend that this letter says something else. She's going to read it to them, making it say what she wants it to say. So she says, oh, this letter says that I am supposed to tell the priest that is here to perform right now, right here and now, the rite of holy matrimony. He is supposed to marry me and Christian privately in my house. And it says that he has sent the priest to us, and we are not to hesitate, but we are to do it right now and be resigned and just obey the cardinal's command. And the priest is like, oh, okay. And Roxanne says to Christian, did I read that well? And Christian is kind of saying, they're like, what's going on? And Roxanne is faking it because remember, they want to be believable to the priest who has come from Dagish, right? So they want it to be believable. So Roxanne's like, oh, this is terrible, like faking that it's terrible that she's being forced to marry Christian, right? And so the priest lifts up his lantern and looks at Cyrano. He says, oh, are you to be the bridegroom? And Christian gets offended. He's like, no, I am the bridegroom. I'm the one that's going to be marrying her. And so the priest then looks at Christian. The priest is starting to get a little bit suspicious. So then Roxanne looks at the letter again and fakes what it says and says, oh, looky here. It says I'm also supposed to give 120 pistoles, which are gold coins. I'm supposed to give you those gold coins as well. So then the priest is like, oh, okay, sure. So he says, well, daughter, resign yourself. In other words, Roxanne, too bad. Even if you don't want to do this, you have to marry Christian. And so she says, oh, I am resigned. She acts, putting on the act like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I'm being forced. And so then Christian opens the door, lets the priest in. And so Roxanne says to Cyrano, she's like, Degish, he might be coming. If he comes, I need you to keep him out here with you. Don't let him come in. And Cyrano's like, I understand, I got it. So he says to the priest, how long is it going to take you? He's like, probably about a quarter of an hour. So Cyrano's like, okay, hurry up. I will wait out here. So they go inside the house so that the priest can perform the ceremony and that Roxanne and Christian can get married right there, right then tonight, because they have to get married before Dagish gets there. So now Cyrano has to come up with a plan to stall when Dagish comes. He has to do something to stall him and keep him outside the house for at least 15 minutes until the priest is done with the ceremony. And that's where your reading ended for today. So for tomorrow, you're going to read pages 451 to 459 and see what happens. How does Cyrano stall and keep Dagish at bay until the priest is finished with the marriage ceremony inside the house? And we will talk about that tomorrow.